what seems harmless but could actually kill you. I just recently ended an antibiotics cure I got because I got a nasty infection in my cheek from an ingrown hair. Swelled so bad I could hardly open my mouth. Scary to think that without antibiotics, I might have been in real trouble from an ingrown bloody hair. Killed by my own sloppy shaving. Hell of a way to go. Dang. I've had a couple ingrown toenails in my life. Both of them got to the point of minor infection before I could have them removed, but the very first one I ever had was the worst. I was only 14, and didn't know what was going on with my toe, just that it hurt extremely bad if you touched it. I'd come home from school every day and pus had been gushing out of it all day, making my sack an off-white pus color. I can't imagine having the infection get that bad that it spreads through your body and kills you. Just the pain alone from the ingrown toenail would be unbearable. Fuck me, I had an ingrown toenail get infected once. I was young, like 10 or 11. I didn't know WTF was happening or why my toe hurt as bad as it did. It did get to the point of infection. I had the shakes and was very weak. They pumped me full of antibiotics and cut the side of the toenail about half off. I had a podiatrist do it at another time, but I'd already experienced the infection so I had it handled fairly quickly. I still remember the pain of the freezing spray, followed by the needle. Driving, I mean, we know it's potentially deadly, but nobody who ever died in a car accident assumed that this would be the day that they died. Driving is one of the most dangerous things we do statistically, and some people do it multiple times a day. My mom used to say, "You will crash. Don't think you won't, you will crash, as assuredly as you breath." It's very dangerous, but we put it out of our minds how dangerous it actually is, statistically, and in fact we often drive to relax. Stress is unbelievably dangerous and absolutely no one will take you seriously if you're stressed out, which is super duper fun and cool. Oh, you're stressed? Stupid baby is stressed out? Wah wah wah. We all have problems. Grow up, you piece of shit. I need these reports done in 12 minutes or I'm firing you now. Hope you didn't need that employer-provided health insurance to pay for your jillion stress-induced health complications somehow. Trying to get out of a high-stress job. Since I got it, I've developed anxiety, depression and heart arrhythmia. Due to anxiety, no idea. I got so badly depressed I attempted suicide last year, survived by pure luck. Since then, I started to give two shits about my job. Desperately trying to get off though, but I feel my freedom is closer than ever. Stress is no joke to your body and mind health. I had to have C-sections and I swear the constipation I got from the morphine was worse than the birthing. I think that poop might have been the size of the baby. It was excruciating. Birth givers of Reddit, if you are put on opioids for pain around the birth, take all the stool softeners they give you and drink all the prune juice, and still be prepared to give birth to a poop baby later. Even if your first poop in the hospital seems normal. I started warning my friends when they got pregnant and they all came back to thank me afterwards, because no one tells you about it. Black licorice root, or more specifically the compound glycyrrhizin, which lowers the body's potassium levels, which can lead to high blood pressure in large doses, abnormal heart rhythms, edema, lethargy and congestive heart failure. For anyone over 40, eating 57 grams, 2 ounces, per day for 2 weeks can lead to these issues. Drinking 1 liter of black licorice-flavored water can also lead to temporary loss of motor functions. Albeit not being a type of poison, anyone with a history of these issues should avoid products with glycyrrhizic est. There's no healthy daily limit to eat. However, limiting consumption is recommended. As mentioned above, glycyrrhizin has hormonal effects resembling those of aldosterone, an adrenal gland hormone responsible for maintaining mineral balance in the blood by helping the body retain sodium and excrete potassium. The benefits of black licorice, such as relieving cold symptoms, used as a remedy for centuries, digestive health, allergic asthma, teeth and more, can be realized in moderation. I wound up in the earth thrice because of this. The screwy thing was that all the docs looked at my labs and said, well, looks like you've got low-K, and I'm like alright, why is that and what do I do about it? And he's like you eat normal and aren't on diabetics, right? And I'm like yeah, and he just scratches his head. And was like well then, I don't know. Thrice, I was in the and not a single one of them ever thought about black licorice. This one's hanging over my head every day. I went through years of major depression with no health insurance and my teeth are in horrendous shape as a result. It's so embarrassing and scary. I've managed to get onto a Medicaid plan, and have started getting some of these teeth taken care of, but it's a long road to go still. And each day I go in between appointments, my teeth radiating with pain. I wonder if today will be the day that I suddenly get very sick or drop dead. If you can't tell already, I live in the US, so not only am I bogged by our terrible healthcare system, but teeth care is almost considered a luxury here, as opposed to a medical necessity. My Medicaid is covering a meager amount of the life-changing work that I need, but soon I will have to go thousands of dollars into debt to maintain my treatment. Please brush and floss every day, and don't forget to brush and scrap your tongue too. You absolutely do not want to end up like me, dealing with this for the rest of your life. A whole polar bear can kill 52 adults as well. I used to work in northern Canada. Needed to piss one time, so we stopped the truck by some shipping containers. I go around the corner, unzip, and as soon as the first drop comes out, I hear this god-awful growl. I look up, and about 30 feet away from me is this huge polar bear just staring me down. I just started running for my life right then and there. As I get to the truck, my door swings open, which I credit to this day saved my life by sparing me the few seconds I needed to get in and close the door just in time for the bear to claw at the door. My coworker was laughing and says, I saw you running like hell with your dick flapping in the air. I didn't bother zipping, so I knew it had to be a bear. Crazy experience. I miss northern Canada. I saw a medical show on TV, Strange Stories of the Air, where a 20-ish man tried suicide by Tylenol. He changed his mind and dialed 911 for help the next day. Too late, because it had already damaged his internal organs via the bloodstream. He felt better for a day and died the next. The medical examiner said as the conclusion that Tylenol is one of the worst ways to kill yourself, as many live long enough to change their minds, but the damage is already done. Nutmeg, nice and tasty spice in small amounts, but more than a teaspoon can lead to hallucinations, cramping, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. The substance myristicin that causes all of this can also lead to organ failure in large amounts. Not that most people would happily eat a full jar of nutmeg on purpose, but it's still wise to keep out of reach of small children, pets, or those who don't know better. I still remember a little over a year ago, it was a very large trend among teenagers on TikTok to trip on nutmeg. They would take several teaspoons and document it, some reporting back hours later to recount the spiders and gnomes they saw, and some never posting about it again. It is possibly one of the worst trends that has made its course through such an impressionable social media audience, and it went very heavily underreported. To this day there are still only a few smaller news articles on it. Cat bites. Cats' mouths are filthy and their fangs are such that they puncture deep, often leaving a seemingly minor wound that barely bleeds but which, in fact, has trapped dangerous bacteria deep beneath your skin. If you get bit hard by a cat, I'm not talking a little nip, I mean a serious bite, then it's very important to clean the wound thoroughly, or go to urgent care and have them do it, otherwise you risk a potentially deadly infection. Over a decade ago my cat got her stupid head stuck in the back of our kitchen chair. When she realized she was stuck, she started flailing around and I thought she was going to break her neck. My mom grabbed a hold of her body and I grabbed her head and she bit down on my hand. We eventually got her out, and about an hour later I had to go to the hospital because my hand was already infected and it was spreading fast. Got pumped full of antibiotics. She gave zero fucks. A nice die. An acquaintance had a nice die. It was a pimple on his eyelid, a local infection, inflamed and full of pus. It was a nuisance and he was going to let it run its course. A few days later he collapsed and was taken to the emergency room. The doctors concluded his die had resulted in sepsis, triggering a heart attack and stroke. Sepsis occurs when chemicals released in the bloodstream to fight an infection trigger inflammation throughout the body. This can cause a cascade of changes that damage multiple organ systems, leading them to fail, sometimes resulting in paralysis or death. Fortunately, he survived his ordeal. God, this is scary. When I was living in Northern California, I got a few of them over the years. I always went to a doctor for antibiotics, but I could see how it would be easy to just tell yourself it will go away on its own. I think I was getting them due to the high humidity, more bacteria. Once I left and moved back to Colorado, haven't had an issue since. I read a Reddit comment that linked to a thread where someone was asking for help and it turned out they were experiencing CO poisoning. This was right after I moved into a new, old place with old gas appliances. I bought the CO meter and the first time I preheated the oven it set off the alarm. I didn't have a steady leak, but I'm still glad I bought that meter. If I ever got drunk and fell asleep while preheating the oven, like one of my old roommates once did, I could have really been in trouble. Carbon monoxide poisoning is probably why we saved $10,000 buying our house as a distressed sale. This was good for us but bad news for the previous owner. The previous owner had been an older man who lived alone. His son had to move him out after neighbors found him collapsed on the living room floor. He hadn't gone to work in 3 days. His health was pretty much shot from that ordeal and the family was selling the house to raise funds and get him into a nursing home. The cause of his collapse was undetermined. Then during the building inspection, clues started turning up. The exhaust fan above the gas stove didn't work. The venting pipe on the hot water heater was out of place too. The venting pipe had probably come loose from its fitting during one of the small earthquakes that often happens in this area. That pipe snapped right in place. It was a 1-minute fix, but afterward when we inspected the bathrooms we found black soot stains on the ceilings inside the cabinets, right near the other side of the wall from the water heater. It looked like exhaust from the gas-powered water heater had been seeping into the bathrooms. The state had passed a law mandating CO detectors, but the previous owner had owned the place since before that law was enacted, so he was grandfathered in and didn't have one. Neighbors said he had been acting strangely in the weeks before his collapse. That situation turned out to be a bargain for our family because the seller's son gave us about half the furniture for free, including valuable antiques. He just didn't have time to sort through the place for that type of thing, much less clean the place or put in improvements that would improve the house's curb value. The choice that family faced was either give those things to us or pay more to the service that was hauling junk to the dump. Of course, as we began to understand what had probably caused this situation, we let that man's family know that information might have helped his medical care moving forward. The main damage to his health was already done, though. Do not mess around with CO risks. Back in high school during summer we had a week-long football camp. A few guys decided to drink as much water as possible but quickly got sick. One of them drank something like 10 liters in one day. They all started throwing up and getting headaches and in sweats. They had water poisoning. They didn't believe it at the time and threw out all the water thinking it was something else. No one else got sick. Don't get water poisoning, kids. I had undiagnosed sleep apnea for the better part of 10 years probably. When it was diagnosed, doc said I probably didn't have proper sleep in years and was amazed I could function at all. When I had my sleep study done, the first 4 hours of sleep I did like normal and the last 4 they woke me and put a PAP on. When I woke up after those 4 hours I felt like I had slept for the first time in forever. I felt so great even my wife noticed. Worst part, during having the sleep apnea I was a delivery driver, overnights. I had an apartment that was growing black mold because of a leak. The junior apartment maintenance guy took a look, said it was mildew, and left. It wasn't mildew. The office kept brushing me off and canceling my work orders. I was having severe breathing issues and sick of it not being taken care of. So I went into the front office and while the sales girl was talking to a prospective renter, I went to the manager and her office in the room next door and spoke loudly enough for the client to hear. I said, "Hey, I've been dealing with this black mold in my apartment for a while now. Are you guys going to take care of it or not?" She immediately got the senior maintenance guy to come check it out. First thing he said was, "Wow, that's a lot of mold." He took care of it, and fixed the leak that caused it. Any herbivores, just because they don't eat meat doesn't mean they won't attack you. In fact, you are putting them in a fight or flight mode. 99% they take flight, and in the 1% they decide to fight, God be with you. Carnivores have a tendency to kill you quickly by grabbing your neck, while herbivores will attack you again and again, leading to a slow painful death. Or friend. I had a roommate who was normally a really chill guy, but when he got drunk, and he lost money on online poker, he would fucking destroy his bedroom. Closet door ripped off its hinges, holes punched in the wall so hard the wooden slats were exposed and broken in them. Broken window, half the room unwalkable due to the sheer amount of broken bottles on the floor. We did not get our security deposit back, to say the least. Boring scenery on the highway. I believe it's called highway hypnosis. You enter a trance-like state from staring at the same scenery. It produces similar effects as being sleepy or drunk. Drivers can lose awareness and find themselves driving miles without recollection. You will have a slower reaction time. Your brain may filter important info such as other cars, exits, or obstacles. Best thing is to engage your brain as much as possible during boring drives. Music, talking, podcasts, etc. That professor who died of it is terrifying. She got 2 drops on a latex glove and washed her hand off immediately, but it was already too late and her brain slowly rotted of mercury poisoning for months until she died several months later. No one even realized it was that small exposure that did it until later. She just had increasing difficulty walking straight or speaking clearly and then passed out at work, and by the end she died because the part of her brain controlling autonomic reflexes like breathing and digesting food was damaged so much they shut down. Yeah, but the liver can recover pretty quickly as long as you get appropriate medical care. It's amazing how much of a beating that organ can take. People just don't realize how fast you can go into organ failure if you overdo it. Of course, when I got COVID, I was very careful with how much paracetamol I took, but it's amazing for treating a whole bunch of symptoms: fevers, muscle pain, headache, etc. Luckily my symptoms only lasted a week. Paracetamol. Overdosing on paracetamol is a good way to rapidly destroy your liver and is often used in suicides. Sadly, the liver shutdown takes place over a week, during which time the urge to commit suicide may subside, but at that point the destruction is irreversible. In the U.S., paracetamol or acetaminophen tablets also contain their antidote, N-acetylcysteine, which prevents or reduces the risk of overdose. In other countries, however, including several European countries, the risk of overdose exists. Not flossing. Long ago, friend had a baby daddy who got a tooth infection from not flossing, put numbing gel on it because he couldn't afford the dentist. Not too long later he was in the hospital for a serious infection, went straight to his heart and ate it. The doctor said it was like sewing through wet tissue. Your mouth is a highway to your heart. I kid you not. It's even a plot point in one of the later Saw movies. I have flossed every single day since hearing that story. Soy sauce. It contains enough salt that if you drank one of the average size bottles in many restaurants it would kill you. https://www.ladams.com/food/daily dish/law soy sauce overdose 20,130,607 story.html. From that article, a 19-year-old in Virginia went into a coma and almost died after drinking a quart of soy sauce. The average size bottles in a restaurant, assuming you mean at the table since that's how you made it sound, are 5 fluid ounces. A quart is 32 fluid ounces. Most people would immediately throw up if they drank a quart of soy sauce, as people usually do when they accidentally swallow a bunch of salt water. The person who almost died from it had managed to keep it down.